We are here at Keeneland Racecourse. I am TVG's Keller, and I am with Trainer Tim Glyshaw, who just saddled a horse in the last race. And Tim, when we think about Keeneland, going back to the last 2 years, one of your top stallions in the barn, Bucchero, has won the last 2 runnings of the Grade 2 Woodford. So let's go back to that first one when you guys pulled the upset, right? He had that great class lines coming in there from Indiana, but pulled the upset. So how were you feeling going into that race?
We were fairly confident. We really thought that he's naturally a turf sprinter. The year before, he drew the one hole here and had to go straight to the lead and pretty much got burnt up. But we knew we would have some pace to run at, and planned on setting back off the pace, and everything just worked the first year.
A tremendous year to get back to a chance to defend that championship. But how'd you feel going into this year, where you guys were the favorite and the one to beat in the Woodford?
There was a little bit more pressure. I mean, definitely. You know, he hadn't won a race all year and had some bad luck in some races, but we thought the setup would be fairly the same. You know, some speed in the race, and he could sit back and run them down at the end and then hang on, and that's exactly what happened. So it's one of the few times that as a trainer that you plan a race out and everything goes the way you planned it to go.
He's been an amazing one for you and Iron Horse Racing, but let's go back to the beginning. First time out, maiden special weight, dusted off the competition there and kind of took an unconventional route. I know I've got the IU red on, we're both Indiana boys, but conventional way to being a world-class turf sprinter.
Well, from what I hear from Harlan, Mike Trombetta always knew that he was going to be a very, very nice horse, and they're a smaller ownership group. You know, they want to make sure they make money, and they went to the Indiana bred program to take advantage of a pretty lucrative program, and it gained a lot of confidence. Bucchero gained a lot of confidence winning stakes up in Indiana, winning races up in Indiana, and then from what I understand, Mike and myself, I know that we always thought that he was a little bit more than that. You know, he was going to be a good graded stakes horse at some point, and you know, he's proven us right. So,
you've been around some top class Grade 1 horses, Bullard's Alley, who you campaigned, and also Lawyer Ron. You were with him all the way up through the run in Arkansas and the trip to the Kentucky Derby. What is it about those top class graded stakes horses that set them apart from all the other horses on the backside?
Mainly heart. I think that you know, there's a lot of horses with a lot of talent, but when things don't go right in races, you know, they just don't you know, give a full effort. You know, Bucchero has had many troubled trips, but he still runs. You know, I mean, he got slammed pretty hard in the race at Churchill Downs on Oaks Day, and he still ran and finished third. He got in a little trouble at the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year, but he still finished fourth and got beat a link. So he runs no matter what. And Bullard was the same way. You know, Bullard had needed some things to go his way. Lawyer Ron, you know, he'd run through a brick wall for you. So I think all three of them have that desire to do well, and really heart sets them apart from other horses. Speed
and courage on the racetrack, but how's he been around the paddock area, around the barn area, and in the mornings when you're training him?
He's an absolute professional. He does everything right. You know, you would probably think that he's, you know, tranked in the paddock, you know, because I mean, you see horses jumping all around, acting all crazy. You know, no offense to anyone, especially up at Indiana in some of the earlier races he was in. There's some pretty wild horses up there, and he just doesn't turn a hair. And shipping, when we van or we fly, doesn't move. You know, he has a box stall. He has a whole big box stall to walk around in. He'll walk around a couple times, and you won't even feel him back there. I've traveled in the front of the, you know, truck with him most of the times to a lot of these places like Aqueduct and those places, and you can't even feel him back there. So he's very easy on himself and very smart.
We talked about how he's been the king of the turf sprints here at Keeneland. You guys had an excellent effort there at the Breeders' Cup, but how about the trip to Royal Ascot? You guys decided to entertain the Group 1 King Stand. We're talking no Lasix, first time going down the straightaway, and of course, first time versus that elite level European competition. So what was that trip like, and how proud of you were you of the effort that he gave you all?
Well, we're really, really proud with the effort he showed. You know, he was running with no Lasix, with no anything. Of course, you know, it helps that he's very, very sound, and you know, just went over and ran a really, really good race against two of the top turf sprinters in the world, Blue Point and Batash. And you know, we thought he got fourth when we were watching live, but fifth against that competition, the first time running straight and first time with no Lasix or anything. We were very, very proud of him, and it's something I know personally that I don't know if I'll ever get to do again. So it's a sort of a once-in-a-lifetime experience. You know, I'd love to tell you I'd love to have 5 or 6 more to be able to go over there and try with, but you know, until Bullard and him last year, I'd never, actually started a horse in the Breeders' Cup, even though we had Tap Town 3 years earlier that had to be scratched. But you need to take the advantage of those opportunities when they come along, and I'm just very thrilled that he gave us that opportunity.
Well, he's going to stud at the absolute top of his game. So what was it about this year that you and Iron Horse decided that this would be the end of his racing career?
He could run another year, but he's already 6. He's sound. He's sound enough to run another year, but with a good run in the Breeders' Cup, and having already won 2 grade 2 stakes on the grass, I'm not really sure that he has anything more to prove. And you don't want to ever go too far with a horse, and I don't think we are. I would rather, stop a little too soon than a little too late. And he's given us everything. Like I said, he's given us everything he has every time he goes out, and he deserves this opportunity now to be retired and stand stud and start making babies. It's going to be a sad day for us, of course, sad and happy. I mean, it'll be the first horse I've ever had that will stand stud someplace, but when you lose a horse running like that out of your barn, that's a little bit sad as well. So
this is a horse I've always felt like I've had a special connection to, other than the fact that we all share the common Indiana bond. But the first time that I ever was a member of the horse racing media, I was working as an intern for a radio show in Louisville, and the first stakes race I ever covered was the Bashford Manor, and a son of Lionheart wins by 9.5 lengths, and it was Kantharos. And I'll never forget that Steve Asmussen, after that race, instead of talking about his speed and his natural ability, he wanted to talk about how professional he was and what type of mind he had. So I know he won one more start, he was undefeated, and I remember when he went to stud Kantharos in Florida, I'm thinking, I can't wait to bet on these horses because they're going to be fast and they're going to be smart. So seeing how Bucchero's been one of the top sons of Kantharos, how do you think he's going to stamp his progeny there in Florida?
I think that it'll be much along those same lines. They'll definitely be fast, and if they get his mind and his dad's mind, they'll be very smart. And there are a lot of talented horses out there that don't have a very good mind and freak out at things, and that costs them the race in the paddock or in the post parade. And my guess is that none of his offspring will ever do that, because that's not him. So. And
one last thing too, the versatility, right? We've won stakes races going long, stakes races short, stakes races on the turf, stakes races on the dirt. So versatility is something that a lot of breeders are looking for.
That's correct. He's won from 5 all the way up to a mile and a 16th. The mile and a 16th was an Indiana bred stake. Obviously, he stamped himself as a top class turf sprinter, but I think that if we would have campaigned him on the dirt this year, he probably would be one of the top horses on the dirt as well. He just has an affinity for the turf. It seems like maybe a little bit better, but he's just as capable on the dirt. The good thing about that, it never happened in his career, but if you ever get one of those rained off the turf, he could definitely perform on the dirt as well. And he's also stakes placed on the synthetic, and he's won on everything we put him on. Pretty much any distance, pretty much any surface he's run well. So,
Tim, congratulations to you. Tremendous training job throughout his career. Harlan Malter and everybody there at Iron Horse, and standing at Florida there at Pleasant Acres Stallion. Look for Bucchero, speed, precocity, and class coming to Florida.